Well, hey everybody, it's your old pal, King Waspinator here, and just discovered that apparently Robert Meyer Burnett from the Burnettwork actually read a letter that I dictated to my intern and had him send in, so let's check that out. Let's check that out. I can't wait to hear this. This is going to be amazing.
I don't know if I agree with you. This letter's from King Waspinator Esquire.
What? King Waspinator Esquire? God damn it! I said put down King Waspinator on the name field. King Waspinator Esquire? How are all of our new subscribers gonna find this channel?
Of March, the year of our Lord, 1863. My dearest Martha, as I sit here on the front lines of this civil war, I take great comfort in knowing that you and the children are safe back home. The constant fighting has taken a heavy toll on my soul, and I am afraid I have begun to question the orders issued to us by the General. For verily, while the critiques of Star Trek Picard and Discovery may indeed be valid, I fear we may have taken things too far. This beloved franchise will never be great again if we destroy it utterly in our rage. Hey Robworks, Burnett Bob, it's your old pal, King Waspinator here, and after some pestering from your young imp, Jim Boyers, I have deemed to step down from Olympus to write you a letter. Now keep in mind, I've only been watching Star Trek consistently for some 40-odd years, so clearly I am not qualified to speak on the subject as those born a decade ahead of me, but bear with me here. I will lead all this off by saying that I agree with 90 to 99% of the criticisms leveled at both Discovery and Picard. The writing is very hit and miss, and is too enamored with modern-era storytelling techniques, which I consider to be lacking in quality in general. Forget Star Trek and Star Wars for a moment, and consider that there has been little in the way of good science fiction since the first Matrix. The Martian, maybe? Sunshine? I'm not sure there's anyone out there with both the skills and the ideas to make quality Star Trek shows. I would say I would add Arrival to that. Absolutely. I would say Children of Men. Absolutely. I would say Never Let Me Go. Absolutely. But anyway.
Well, okay. I mean, I did say very little. Not at all. I mean, like, okay, so that's, 5, 6 good science fiction movies off the top of our heads in the last 2 decades? But I do agree, Arrival was good, and Children of Men was good, and I'm sure if I really sat down and thought about it, there's probably a few other things. I would maybe want to put the caveat that when I said that there hasn't been any good science fiction since the first Matrix, that I largely mean good science fiction for the mainstream. I mean, undoubtedly, there's been great science fiction books and comics and television series. I mean, clearly we've had Ronald Moore's Battlestar Galactica in the years since. And while it's had its highs and lows, Stargate and Stargate Atlantis and even Stargate Universe all managed to, have some good stories now and then. So it hasn't been a complete void of no good science fiction. But proportionately speaking, there's been an awful lot of bullshit.
I'm not sure there's anyone out there with both the skills and the ideas to make a quality Star Trek series that would be willing to actually do it. And those that would are not likely ever to be asked to, because our entertainment culture seems to award creators whose main talent is schmoozing behind the scenes. So instead, the barometer for top-tier sci-fi this last decade have been the notorious mystery box huckster J.J. Abrams and the writers of such sci-fi greats as the Transformers live-action films and Justice League. I don't mean to call Abrams a huckster as a derogatory statement. Oh, but I think it perfectly applies to him. He sort of puts himself in that role by using an old Carney trick like the mystery box. But sadly, the mystery box works. The whole trick of the mystery box is that it is empty. And yet here we are, several years down the road, and the general state of sci-fi fandom is split up and yelling about what they think they see in this empty box. It's like a terrible trick has been played on all of us, and I don't see any clear path out of it, save for the slow march of time. But it is tiring, demoralizing, and having already largely given up on Star Wars, I am not happy that Star Trek is on the same path. The cynic in me is prone to thinking that this is all part of CBS All Access's plan. Their streaming site seems doomed to failure, and I would guess it is surviving off of speculative investments. As such, they'll keep dumping money on these secret hideout treks until their investors catch wise and stop fronting them money. So to keep this money train a-rolling, they need its profile in pop culture to be greater than what its actual viewing audience would bring them. That's very interesting. They need it to annoy people. The algorithms that monitor all of our chats don't care if the buzz is positive or negative. It's true. They just know that people are making videos and tweets and blog articles about Picard, which counts as engagement, which they can then show to their investors as proof that if they need to put a little more money in for one more season and one more series, things will turn around and CBS All Access will become a profit generator. It doesn't matter that this is essentially a lie. Bankruptcy laws being what they are, the executives controlling all of this will be able to walk away with no responsibility if and when this house of cards collapses. In a fashion, I find that I'm less so concerned over how it honors or dishonors Trek history, as I am more concerned about how the furor generated by the mystery box will affect Star Trek's future viability. Very good point. Someday CBS All Access will fall, and someone will find themselves with the right to produce Star Trek afterward. But will they want to? After a decade plus of manufactured and inflated controversies, where no matter what they do, the very fan base they are courting are likely to complain regardless, why even bother? Both Star Trek and Star Wars have been infected by a philosophy that encourages the current creators to change these properties enough that they don't have to give revenue to the original creators. The old 20% different line. It's not a political agenda, it's a profit agenda. Absolutely. And it is short-sighted. But who can blame them? Our entire society is short-sighted, worried more about the next 4 months' profit than the ramifications of the actions taken to reap those profits. They're just playing by the rules we've set. Star Wars was slowly turning into a bona fide religion before Disney bought it, and they've already watered it down enough to stymie that trajectory in our culture. And for even longer, Star Trek has stood as the gold standard for visions of a future worth striving for, and it is now on its way to becoming tarnished and eventually forgotten. So what's my point? All of us YouTube commentators, both tiny unknown ones like myself or the bigger fish like yourself, I'm not nearly as big as...
Hey, I mean, I've been running this channel for about 3 years now, and I've just barely managed to crawl up to about 120 subscribers. And you're sitting pretty with 23,000.6. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that makes you a bigger fish. Now, admittedly, if we want to remember the wise words of Qui-Gon Jinn, obviously, there are always bigger fish.
John Campea, or Nerdrotic, or Doomcock, or even Mecha Random for that matter, are all dancing to the tune of this empty mystery box. Hating it only feeds the beast. Anyone notice how the negative reviews get pimped out more than the recommendations than positive? If CBS wanted to bury the criticism, I'm sure someone at YouTube would be glad to accommodate. Just claim harassment if there's no ground for copyright strikes, boom, and no more bad reviews, but they don't do that. As I said, I don't see a way out. I don't want to be the tone police. I don't want to say the criticisms are inherently wrong in and of themselves, but I would like it if we could all collectively step back from ourselves for a moment and see that we are being manipulated. Unfortunately, some characters on YouTube have made a career out of feeding into this. I am trying to yell a warning in the midst of a hurricane, and no one wants to listen, even if they can hear. Whoa, Discordia. Well, I have to say, King Waspinator Esquire, this is a fantastic letter.
Oh, yes, I agree. It was a fantastic letter, now wasn't it?
And I think you are absolutely correct in your assessment of all of this. My whole thing is that Star Trek has always, for me, stood as aspirational.
Yes, that's a good chunk of why I've long been a fan of yours. Because you, like me, seem to be a true believer in a Roddenberry's dream.
It was always something that I looked toward that put a smile on my face. I always, again, puzzled over all of it. One of the things that I really hate is with the advent of Discovery. I used to love Star Trek spaceships. I mean, I still do. I'm surrounded by them. I have many, many Star Trek spaceship miniatures. I've loved the design lineage. I bought into it all. Even when the Enterprise E came out, and then the Intrepid class, the Voyager, and they kind of went from that circular saucer shape to more of an oval, a spoon shape, so to speak. I liked all of that design lineage, and Star Trek Discovery, for whatever reason, threw all of that out.
I will admit, while the new design aesthetic for the CBS All Access era Star Trek shows is technically proficient, the ship's design is just ugly. And harkening back to my earlier points in my letter, I'd say that that's a good sign of them needing to change things up a little bit, because they don't want to have to give money to Akula or anybody else who is involved in the production design of the 90s era TV series. So, yeah, there.
It's strange to me that I just think, again, the thinking behind the powers that be at Star Trek now all they want to do is change it. There's no interest in preserving a lineage of Star Trek. Like you said, it's not even about being 20% different. It's just about being their Star Trek as opposed to honoring what came before. They want to reinvent it so it became theirs. Bad Robot actually tried to curtail the sales of any product from classic Trek. They want to get rid of it all.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. It's actually, knowing stuff like that is one of the foundational reasons why I have the hypothesis I have about this whole negative publicity scheme that they're using to keep their defunct company alive. I don't think it's conspiracy theory in the least. I mean, all this stuff is actually fairly public, but everyone's been distracted by the political angle, and I very much feel like the politics, the whole diversity thing, is really a cover. It gives them a blanket reason, an excuse, and justification to change things up enough so now it's theirs. They got all new characters. Wait, look, it's a female Captain America. We don't have to give Stan Lee any money at all. That kind of a thing. And yeah, it's just really sad. Just really sad. And then also, because they've established this idea that there's these terrible alt-right toxic fans out there on the internet waiting to get to you at any moment and leave nasty comments in your video trailers YouTube video section. Well, because they've done that now, like if anyone criticizes in any of their terrible storytelling decision-making, well, yeah, that's just toxic fans talking, and it's not the real fans. It's not those quality fans that the studio really wants, Yeah, that uncut Colombian fan, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
Which to me is so odd. What a strange thing to want to do, but that's what creators want. They want to come in and make these things their own. Disney wanted to reinvent Star Wars and make it's their own thing. That's what they wanted to do. They bought Star Wars. They didn't want to. They wanted to make it their own. They wanted to take it and move forward with what they deemed as being Star Wars. And I think that's ultimately wrong. I mean, Doctor Who, obviously, you have creators that come in and, now we have Chris Chibnall. Before we had Russell Davies come in and sort of reinvent the franchise, and people liked what was going on there.
Okay, I'll admit, I don't really care all that much about Doctor Who, never been a fan, but on the subject of inane, British science fiction, I would imagine that if they made a Hitchhiker's Guide where Arthur Dent was a woman,
I think that's where we're at, and I think you're absolutely right. It's all about profit. It's all about everyone's profit. Creators are coming in. Bad Robot was cutting themselves sweet deals. working in TV is very lucrative. Star Trek, look, they're making it into a franchise, and Secret Hideout gets all that cash. They're presiding over everything. It is totally a financial decision. Now, if somebody was passionate about Star Trek and was able to make things, I think, that are good, I find that modern Star Trek, people can like it, but is it going to stand the test of time? I don't know. I think you might be right. I think ultimately these brands, their longevity is being hurt. And I think what you're saying is correct. The negativity does nobody any good, but
I kind of view the negativity, and that this is appropriate for Star Trek fans. If you think back to your first season of TNG here, the negativity of complaining and levying criticism about Star Trek and other properties, but specifically, in this context, Star Trek, it's like a Chinese finger trap. Remember when Data got his finger stuck in the Chinese finger trap? Well, check out my reasoning here. The studio kind of has us in a situation where we're almost like hostages. If we don't support this and put up with the things they do to it, it might go away forever, and we'll never get to see it again. Why, they might even just cancel the streaming rights to all the old Star Treks too, and only just a few people who actually manage to have the stuff on DVD and still have a working DVD player will be able to watch Star Trek from now on, unless you're willing to pay out the ass. So we have that on one hand. It's not right for us to just let them abuse us like that and just do whatever the hell they want to the show, but there is that threat that if we don't like it too much, they'll cancel it, and then no one after that is ever going to want to make it again, because they're just going to assume the fans are going to hate it. And on the other hand, it's is it good to participate in this toxic fan meme that they've painted around us? Like I was saying, it shields them from having to feel like, they're being legitimately criticized because it's just those terrible alt-right toxic fans. And it also simultaneously generates the very engagement they want on the internet so that they can prove to their shareholders and investors that their product is worth just a few more bucks. Please just finance one more season. I just got a few more house payments to make, and I was eyeballing this new yacht, so we just need one more season of Star Trek Picard, and bam, we're going to be making so much money, guys. You can trust me.
I want to live in a world where everybody likes Star Trek. I mean, what was really interesting was we watched a brand in Game of Thrones. Whether you liked the 8th season of Game of Thrones or not, we watched what was considered to be appointment television, the biggest TV show in the world, and in the last 3 seasons, it faltered, and the last season, for me, it wasn't even the last whole season. I liked the first 3 episodes. It was the final 3 episodes that literally tarnished the whole series.
Yeah, and you don't really hear very many people talking that much about Game of Thrones anymore. The excitement's gone way down. Because here's the problem. A story can have a fantastic opening, it can have great characters, it can have a great, wonderful journey and a story and a climax, and it can have, for television and film, it can have a wonderful production quality and the best actors and special effects that just seem like you just reach out and touch them. But it's all for naught if it doesn't have a good ending. A story is only as strong as its ending. If it has a crap ending, there's absolutely no reason to ever want to watch it again. I mean, look at Star Wars now. Because of J.J. Abrams and his mystery box, Star Wars now has a bad ending. That's his whole, like I was saying, his whole storytelling technique is to really just tell these empty stories that are full of a bunch of flashbang nonsense that fills time, but there's really no substance there. But there's all these hints of things that aren't really explained, and there is no explanation for them. It's a mystery box. See, a real mystery has tons of information in the course of that story so that the acute reader can put the information together and solve the mystery themselves. What the mystery box is, it's just leaving out information and telling you it's a mystery. That's it. It's a trick. It's a con job. And, because J.J. Abrams, that's his whole shtick. When he had to actually write something as an actual definitive ending, he couldn't help himself that movie is just a bunch of nothing. It's like every internet request that his people could scoop up over the course of a weekend of surfing Twitter and YouTube, and they all just jammed it together into this one big, giant, incoherent, contradictory movie. And he still had to put his little mystery box kind of stuff in there by like having like this whole subplot about Finn has something he wants to confess, and he never tells you what it is. Never, the audience never knows. One last little mystery box out the door for people to still be arguing about, wondering what might be in this non-existent mystery. It sickens me. It absolutely sickens me. And Star Trek, it's ironic because J.J. Abrams got his tentacles into Star Trek before he did with Star Wars, but it seems to be taking longer to take Star Trek down. So at least Star Trek has that going for it, and I think there is still an outside chance that somehow we might be able to save this thing. But like I say, they have us in this terrible trap. We're caught. We're like hostages, and they have a gun to our loved one's head. And we have no choice but just sit here and just let them just abuse it and, use magic marker and write humiliating things and drop penises all over our loved one's face. Because at any moment they can just blow its brains out, so what are we gonna do? It's just frustrating. It's very frustrating. So anyway, on that bright cheery note, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Yeah. All that good stuff. Have a good one.
And I'm speaking from somebody who is a story, from a storytelling perspective, a fan of stories. It was not good. It was inexplicably not satisfying, and I don't get it. I don't understand.